Hello. Hello, good evening, everyone in the house. Good evening, sir. Please, may I know if you...
Will I say this will nothing?
Hello, can you hear me?
We need to hear you well, though.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Hello, hello, hello.
Good evening,
testing
sir.
the mic. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we are hearing you quite loud and clear.
Hello, why the call guest feeling fast? Let me say hello and welcome to everyone in the house. Elizabeth, I just want to make sure everyone can hear me right. Please, can we indicate?
We can hear you better now.
Okay, thank you. With our time at 5 minutes past 9 p.m. today, I believe we can start with the formalities. So we warmly welcome everybody in this special call, this special edition of on this blessed day. I remain Pharmacist Raymond Okechukwu, and moderating this special edition with me is Dr. Timmy Pre Agogo. Please, Dr. Timmy Pre, say hello to the team. Say hello to the forum.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Good evening. We actually welcome you all to this wonderful special edition presentation today. We want to welcome you all. My name is Dr. Timmy Pre Okerogene Agogo. I'll be your co-moderator for tonight's presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, we have reason to call this special edition of the CPAM Weekly Clinical Meeting special in many respects. The choice of the topic, the presenter, and I believe we also have two moderators today that will show you how special it is. So we are warmly welcome everyone. Today we are going to discuss the imperatives of the Pharmacy Council of Nigeria Act 2022 and the clinical pharmacy practice in Nigeria. To be presented by, they have already described him as the field marshal of the pharmacy profession. Is no other person than pharmacist Akintayo Olumide Bamidele. He holds a Bachelor of Pharmacy degree. He holds a double fellowship, an academic fellow of the West Africa Postgraduate College of Pharmacists, and a fellow of the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria. We did a lot of abridging and summarizing to be able to contain within the time frame the citation of this colossus in the pharmacy profession. He is the Chief Executive Officer of the Togmed Ventures Limited, domiciled in Lagos State. He's the former president of the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria. He's the former secretary of the Faculty of Community Pharmacy, West Africa Postgraduate College of Pharmacists. He's a former consultant to the National Assembly on Public Hearing on Pharmaceutical Matters. He has participated in over 1,005 international national and local conferences and workshops, and has presented over 80 papers in all this. He's a member of the National Steering Committee on Drug Distribution, running through 2014 to 2015, and is a member of the National Essential Drug List Committee between 2016 and 2018. He's one of the 50 icons of the Great Ife. We make reference to the Vanguard Media or Limited of 2021 of 2012. Any other similar awards we can to Heshu and Alpha, Stalwart, and Juggernaut. Ladies and gentlemen, I cannot say it better than him. In talking about today's topic, I repeat, the imperatives of the Pharmacy Council of Nigeria Act 2022 and the clinical pharmacy practice in Nigeria. I believe by the time we're done with this, you will see why we chose him and the topic for today's special edition. Pharmacist Akintoye Olumide Bamidele, you're welcome. Please, may I call on my co-presenter or moderator to present some erudite pharmacists we have in the floor before we kick off the presentation. Pharmacist Dr. Timire.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, my co-moderator. At this point, we want to recognize all CPAN VIPs and major stakeholders present at this meeting tonight. You are highly welcome. We also want to welcome all fellows of the West African Postgraduate College and also fellows of PSN that are also present here tonight. You are all highly welcome. We also want to use this opportunity to welcome all members of CPAN that are in the diaspora that are actually present here tonight. You are all welcome to this meeting. All CPAN state coordinators who can see you, you are all highly welcome. All CPAN state secretaries, you are all highly welcome. We also want to welcome CPAN Board of Trustee members that are present here tonight. You are all highly welcome. Then CPAN National Chairman is here, Dr. Joseph Madu. You are highly welcome. And all the ESCOs of CPAN National that are present here tonight. We can see you, CPAN National Secretary. You are all highly welcome here tonight. Then we want to also welcome all those who may be attending this clinical meeting for the first time. We want to use this opportunity to remind you that we have meetings held every Fridays of the month, except the last Friday of the month, which we always hold the state CPAN meeting. This meeting is held on Saturday for the first time because we had to push it to this Saturday because our presenter demanded for this day. We didn't have time to do it yesterday. He didn't have time to do it yesterday, that's why. So we want to use this opportunity to welcome you all to this meeting tonight. So thank you so much. Over to you, my co-moderator. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please, a reminder to the ground rules. Please, may everybody be on mute. Please mute your mics while the presentation goes on. Make your remarks, your comments at the chat box, and we will have question and answers sessions after the presentation, so that we have the best of presenting and the experience and enjoy the presentation. Let us minimize every distraction as much as possible. And we are now rolling the ball off and calling on our erudite field marshal, Juggernaut pharmacist Akintoye Olumide Bamidele to take us through the discussion of this topic today from Bamidele.
Thank you very much. Let me start by conveying the depth of my appreciation to the moderators for your very generous and kind words. I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity of a very important rule of engagement with colleagues on this platform. I am one person who is very proud of CPAN, and when people invite you on this great platform that is making a lot of progress, you do not have a choice than to convey the depth of your gratitude. So because of our time, let me just go on straight to this presentation. And I want to start with some form of introduction. And that is to say everything, all the acts of parliament in Nigeria stem directly from today's 1999 Constitution. You are all aware that there are three major imperatives when you're looking at the 1999 Constitution. Matters are either on the exclusive list, a concurrent list, or a residual list. When you say anything is on the exclusive list, it means it is only the federal government of Nigeria that has powers through the National Assembly to legislate. And then, of course, it is only the appropriate arms of the executive that can enforce and implement those laws enacted by the National Assembly. And logically true, it is only the Federal High Court that can adjudicate on such matters. The concurrent list, on the other hand, is one that both the federal and state government have jurisdiction. The residual involves federal, state, and the local governments. And I think that's the very first thing we need to be conscious of. Today in Nigeria, there are two major pharmacy laws. The old, we won't have time to go into the evolution of some of these laws. The old Poison Pharmacy Act, Cap 535, Laws of the Federation, 1990. Now, even by virtue of the PCN Act, of 2022, Section 70 of that act still conveys a validity on the Poison Pharmacy Act. The old Decree 91 of 1992, which became Cap P17, Laws of the Federation 2004, has however been repealed by Section 69 of the same law. And that's why I said today it is only two pharmacy laws that we have in Nigeria. We, on the other hand, have a preponderance of drug laws. We still have about 8 of such laws in existence. Then the NAFDAC Act, the Fake Drug Act, the Dangerous Drug Act, the Food and Drugs Act, and so many of them. Because of our time, we would also not be able to go deeply into all of this. Now, it is very important that pharmacists appreciate that the PCN Act 2022 was signed into law on August 16. That was the day President Muhammadu Buhari actually signed it, but it became an official instrument of law by virtue of Gazette number 157 of August 30, 2022. And this was released via Government House Notice number 108. Now we go on straight to the PCN Act 2022. The PCN Act, as it stands today, is one that has 12 parts, 72 different sections. 12 parts, 72 different sections. Now, because of the mandate, this presentation is one that usually will take between 1.5 hours and 2 hours. But because the scope has been narrowed to direct patient care and clinical pharmacy, we will just have an abridged version. And so I will draw your attention to those parts of this law that can impact directly on patient care. And it is very, very important I put on record that these new acts of parliament is actually a product of many years of hard work of the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria. And that's why, as we go on, you see that some of the litigations we had in time past, some of the motions and resolutions we had at PSN AGMs, and some of the things we decided on at previous summits of the PSN 2002 and 2012, when some of our past presidents steered the ship of the PSN, gave back to so many of these things. And I would like to start by drawing your attention to Section 16 of this new act. Basically, we will be looking at Section 16, Section 22, Section 27, Section 29, Section 31, 33, and then we go on to the interpretation clause in Section 71. Section 16, what does Section 16 say? I believe you have the slides, and the slides were sent earlier on because it would help you to follow very well. So Section 16 is that part of the law that talks about the register, the registers that the council, that the Register of Council and the Register of the Pharmacy Council of Nigeria needs to keep in the present dispensation. And some of those registers will include the Register of Pharmacists, a register for pharmacy technicians, a register for pharmaceutical premises, whether it's retail, wholesale, imports, manufacturing, whatever the kid are. And then because of significantly new developments, we will now keep registers for satellite medicine facilities. We'll keep register for patent medicine shops. That's PPMVL, the popular PAPMVL. Now, you look at it, when you look at this scope, you see that it has become a lot more wide spectrum. Either in the dispensation of Cap P17 2004, the council, the erstwhile Pharmacist Council of Nigeria, in fact, since about 1958, when we had the erstwhile Pharmacist Board of Nigeria, council or the board, whatever it was called, carried and handled only two sets of registers, one for pharmacists and one for pharmaceutical premises. So this is the first time council is going to be handling a register for patent medicine dealers, for pharmacy technicians, for satellite medicine facilities, and all of this. But I need to, because you remember I said some of these things are products of PSN agitations of previous years. For instance, the patent medicine thing we're talking about, if you're familiar with the provisions of the Poison Pharmacy Act 535, you see that it gives express powers to the Honorable Minister of Health to actually act as a licensing authority with regards to patent medicine vending in Nigeria. And so, minister after minister just exercised the prerogative, and they were doing all sorts of things with this delegation. At the time, late Oliko Iransokuti actually delegated the powers to issue these PPMVL licenses to local government areas in Nigeria. And the implication of that was that we had about 774 different licensing authorities with regards to only one endeavor. And so the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, Lagos State branch, under the leadership of Jimmy Agbaji at that time, was chairman, I was secretary. We took the Federal Ministry of Health to court sometimes around 1995. And by 1997, when the Federal Ministry of Health knew we were going to win that matter, they approached us through our council and we settled that matter out of court. The thrust of the argument of the PSN Lagos at that time was that, look, if drug matters are on the exclusive list, and you know they're on the exclusive list by virtue of being listed as item 21 in part 1 of the second schedule of the 1999 Constitution, then of course, even if the minister had to delegate, the delegation must be in direct tandem with constitutional provisions. So gladly, the Federal Ministry of Health through its minister agreed to delegate this responsibility to PCN. And of course, that particular development infuriated a lot of the patent medicine dealers, so that at the last count, there were more than 15 litigations all over this country in various federal high courts, where the powers of PCN to actually superintend, regulate, and control patent medicine vending was challenged. And it is gratifying to put on for the records that the PCN actually won all those cases, because the Federal High Court from Asaba to Kaduna to Benin all affirmed at different times that indeed the Pharmacy Council of Nigeria, as it was then, had powers, had a specific approbation in law to actually regulate and control patent medicine vending in Nigeria. The only exception was a recent one in Akure, and that matter is being dealt with as we speak now at the Court of Appeal. So In short, the benefit, therefore, of having registers for all of this is that the PCN Act 2022 affirms what the courts have actually pronounced, that all of these stakeholders in these various cadres of practice have to be regulated and controlled by the Pharmacy Council of Nigeria. And that's why it must have a custody of all the requisite players who operate these different areas of practice. Then we go on to section 22. That section 22, I hope, I'm not too sure you have it on the slides, but what section 22 is one of the strongest provisos in this new law. Section 22 says it has to do with the inspection and registration of pharmaceutical premises in Nigeria. Now, what that section says is that any place, please listen to this, any place used for the purpose of dispensing, selling, compounding, distribution, storage, stocking, retailing, wholesale, manufacturing, importation, exportation of drugs, including scientific offices, must, that's compulsion, must be inspected and registered by the Pharmacists Council of Nigeria. Now, the express legal implication of that, and that's why I try to emphasize, because it talks about any place in Nigeria where you stock medicines, any place in Nigeria where you dispense medicines, any place in Nigeria where you sell medicines must be inspected and registered by the Pharmacy Council of Nigeria. In other words, therefore, and this is really, really impactful, direct patient care and clinical pharmacy practice in Nigeria. What this is saying is that once you keep 2 tablets of paracetamol in any location in Nigeria, then you must have a superintendent pharmacist. So the days of using a nursing staff, a nursing matron, or a pharmacy technician as a cover-up to dispense medicines in Nigeria is gone if we all stand for the vigorous implementation and enforcement of Section 22, and indeed a whole range of other areas in this new law. So that takes me to Section 27. And this is particularly very important to all of us as stakeholders. Section 27 says it has to do with the terms and conditions imperative to run and operate a retail or community pharmacy practice or pharmaceutical company in Nigeria. Section 27.1 says only pharmacists shall own retail or community pharmacy in Nigeria. Only pharmacists. Please note, Section 2 now says satellite pharmacy for pharmacists with 10 years postgraduate experience who have affiliated with the registered community pharmacy. So it is actually Section 27.2 that gives legal imperative to satellite pharmacy, the satellite pharmacy concept in Nigeria. And like you have seen, the condition precedent is anybody who will do that must have a minimum of 10 years post-graduation experience. Section 27.3 says a Nigerian or foreign companies can run chain retail pharmacies, provided pharmacists are on that board and they have at least 40% of the equity. The lacuna that I see in Section 27.3 remains that before coming up to say Nigeria or foreign company, there should have been a clause that says without prejudice to Section 1, Nigerian, because that would have strengthened that Section 27.1. But that's the way we have it. And I tell people, because every time I make this presentation, people have said, oh, now that you have given this lacuna to chain pharmacies, it takes or erodes the strength of 27. I do not completely agree, Because if you also understand, and that was why some of us insisted that this section 3 must have 40% equity. There's really no mega company that will just give you 40% of its equity. But being Nigerians, because we're all Nigerians before being pharmacists, to protect the profession, we also insisted during drafting that is section 27.6. And I want you to see the import. That's why I'm going straight to it. There is a certain section 27.6 that says a pharmacist who makes a false statement under subsection 3, and that's because of our experience with young pharmacists and other unscrupulous pharmacists, that if you make a false statement, for instance, if you go and claim that you own 40% that you do not own, you carry a criminal liability, and on conviction, a fine, a huge fine. When we get to fines, you see how huge it can be, a huge fine, or even a prison term or an imprisonment can be invoked. So you see that this section 6 is deliberately or was deliberately prescribed to protect the profession and its integrity. And I am particularly drawing your attention to it because it offers, it makes many criminally minded pharmacists extremely vulnerable. It's unfortunate we won't get to section 47, which has to do with the disciplinary process now in pharmacy. You would have seen one or two things I'm trying to say in this regard. So please note all of these provisos. And then I want to draw the attention of those of you who are in public hospitals to 27.5, because you have a responsibility. This was reflected to protect your jobs and to protect our profession. And it says nobody shall operate a private pharmacy in a public health facility. So we expect that from now, even as the Pharmacists Council continues to champion some of these things, you also have a responsibility to begin to draw the attention of your management to this. Because one of the strategies to remove our profession in the public domain is to get all hospitals to privatize their pharmacies. And so we have a law today now that forbids that, and it is very, very important we begin to invoke 27.5. There is also 27.4, which prescribes that we must have a pharmacist or pharmacists on board of corporate bodies in wholesale distribution, importation, and manufacturing companies. This has always been there. We're only saying you have to strengthen that whole concept. And so when you try to evaluate everything section 27 is trying to achieve, you see that it is all about strengthening the latitude of influence of pharmacists. It is about making sure, like we see in other organized crimes, that pharmacists are truly in charge of pharmaceutical premises and indeed drug-related endeavors in Nigeria. Section 29, and we go to section 29, and 29.1 says, please listen to this, every pharmaceutical premises shall be under the direct supervision. I think there was there's a mistake in the slide. That word should be supervision. Okay, it's been changed to supervision. It's not suppression. What we had there initially was suppression. Every pharmaceutical premises shall be under the direct supervision of a superintendent pharmacist. You know, this completely aligns with section 22 that I read earlier on. Now, if you go on to find out under section 71 who a superintendent pharmacist is, you will see that today in this country, the superintendent pharmacist is that pharmacist who has direct personal control and overall supervisory conduct in the day-to-day management in the day-to-day management of pharmaceutical premises in Nigeria. So that is very instructive. That is why for satellite pharmacies, you cannot have superintendent pharmacists. Because based on the Supreme Court ruling of 1978 in the popular Debesi versus Pharmacists Board of Nigeria, you see that it forbids anybody superintending more than one pharmacy. And if the law says you must be in personal and direct control, there is no how you can have another job and still be in personal and direct control. So you must begin to understand why you have some limitations with these laws. Section 29.3 is another one we need to reckon with. And this is also very instructive to our colleagues who work in public and private hospitals. 29.3 says every pharmacy, whether in public or private sector, every pharmacy, whether in public or private sector in the hospital, shall be under the supervision and control of a superintendent pharmacist. Meaning that whether you work in a government hospital, whether you work in a private hospital, once there is a pharmacy in that hospital, once they dispense 2 tablets of paracetamol in such a hospital or clinic, it is lawful now that you must have a superintendent pharmacist in charge. Now, this is a direct product of yet another litigation and a resolution of the PSNHA. In 1996 in Ilorin, yours truly and another hospital pharmacist, for those of you in hospital, one of your retired directors in Lagos, Mrs. Bolanle Adenero, we actually moved that motion in 1996 in Ilorin, that all our hospitals must begin to have superintendent pharmacists. And when the Pharmacists Council of Nigeria attempted to implement it, the Guild of Medical Directors challenged that decision and took the Pharmacists Council of Nigeria to court. In a landmark ruling in October 2007, the Federal High Court Lagos ruled that indeed the Pharmacists Council of Nigeria has a specific approbation in law to regulate and control hospital pharmacy practice in both the public and private sector in Nigeria. And it is on the basis of that ruling, that court order, that Section 29.3 is now crafted and has become a permanent part of our law statutes in Nigeria, of the statutes in Nigeria. Now, the reason I'm drawing your attention to some of those things is that oftentimes we shy away from going to courts. We do not want to challenge. We think it is. We think that it is fruitless and unnecessary approaching the courts to interpret some of those things. If we do not go to court, we will not develop pharmacy jurisprudence. And that's the point I'm trying to make. If some people are not challenged these things, then the unfortunate status quo that did not allow us make progress for so many years will still have been a limiting factor even today. So let's go on to section 31, and this has to do with the appointment of pharmaceutical inspectors. Appointment of pharmaceutical inspectors, section 31.1 gives a major condition precedent to be appointed. As the only difference now, they don't even call it pharmaceutical inspectors again. In the Pharmacy Council of Nigeria Act, they are now designated as pharmaceutical inspection officers, but it's the same. But the important thing to know is that the only condition precedent to be appointed a pharmaceutical inspection officer in Nigeria is that you must be a registered pharmacist, registered and licensed pharmacist. That's all. And that was the condition precedent in the old section 5 and 6 of the PPA Act, Cap 535 LFM 2004. So they have maintained it. But the major benefits of this particular one is that unlike in the whole Poison and Pharmacy Act, if you are familiar with that act, you see that it was not only pharmacists that were designated pharmaceutical inspectors. That law allowed medical officers, police personnel not below the rank of ASPs to be appointed pharmaceutical inspectors in Nigeria. Now, all of that is gone forever, because if you study section 70, it is clear. It says when there are areas of conflicts between the PCN Act 2022 and the Poison and Pharmacy Act 535 LFL of 1990, the proviso in the PCN Act 2022 takes precedence. In other words, this section that I'm reading to you now, section 31, 1 and 2, supersedes sections 5 and 6 of the PPA Cap 535 LFN 1990. But significantly, you must see this. Section 32 will soon be rounding up, please. I'm rounding up now. If you look at section 32, please project that slide, because we won't be able to read through. If you read through that section 32, this is the first time in any of our laws that pharmaceutical inspection officers have been empowered under the law. For the first time in the history of pharmacy practice in Nigeria, you see that inspectors can now get into, visit anywhere they believe a violation of the PCI Act 2022 has been committed. When they cannot, it's not just visit alone, they can inspect, they can seal the premises where drugs are sold or dispensed in violation of provisions of this act. They can go on to open and examine any container package that may help investigations. They can examine books, computers, documents, and if anybody, God forbid, now, if you obstruct, if there is willful obstruction or delay when a pharmaceutical inspection officer wants to exercise his duty, it constitutes an offense that is punishable under this new law. Owners of premises are also bound under this law to render assistance to pharmaceutical inspection officers. So you know that in most of our old laws, the liability was always on the superintendent pharmacist and director, but owners now cannot run away because they are also bound to render assistance to pharmaceutical inspection officers. So these are heartwarming, mind-blowing developments if we respond to this momentum of the significant positive development all of this portends for our profession. Section 33, and this is also another great one for hospital pharmacies in Nigeria. 33.1 says pharmacies in public and private hospitals is clear, and clinics must be inspected, registered, and granted annual licensure by PCS. So it is not whether I want it or not, it is compulsory. Section 2 goes ahead to say all pharmacies in every public and private hospital, clinic, and healthcare institution where drugs are dispensed shall have superintendent pharmacists. Now, apart from the immensity of what all of this portends for direct patient care, we are also seeing, I have tried to conduct a small study, and I have seen very clearly that if we support the PCN to implement this law very well, it has the potential of opening at least between 25 to 50,000 new jobs for pharmacists in Nigeria. You want to ask me why? And the reason is simply this. This law brings sanity to a very large extent, because all hospitals, over 90% of private hospitals and clinics in Nigeria are guilty of dispensing and selling and stocking medicines without pharmacies. Now, this is one of the things this law is meant to put a permanent halt to. And so we must encourage the PCN to make a major statement with this law. The PCN needs to send notices to all healthcare institutions. Gone are the days when people will advertise in a hospital, even at government level. And when it comes to pharmacy, The only vacancy you get to see is a request for pharmacy technicians. This law has made it clear now that once you intend to stock medicines, you must have a superintendent pharmacist. So it is potentially very, very important and great for pharmacy in Nigeria. Let me quickly draw your attention to Section 47 because I mentioned it. Now, unlike the days of the Pharmacists Council of Nigeria, there is now provision for you to be punished for professional misconduct and infamous conduct. Let me show you insight into one particular power that continues to intrigue me that council now has. Now, they have listed all the things that can constitute professional misconduct and infamous acts. And then council says here that in 47.1c, please project 47.1c. 47.1c says, if you provide that dispensing of, if you dispense or sell drugs and poisons to an authorized person, it amounts to misconduct under the new law. Now, if you analyze that, you know that it is potentially very dangerous for all of us because there is hardly any practicing pharmacist who has not been guilty of 47.1c at one point or the other. So we need to be careful, especially because we are talking about direct patient care. 47.2 is even more alarming because it gives powers to PCN to make rules. Please listen to this. To make rules prescribing other acts or omissions not listed from 47.1a to I. 47.1a to I lists everything that can constitute professional misconduct or infamous conduct. But 47.2 gives PCN powers to actually come up with things that are not listed in 47.1a to I. Let me give you an example of what PCN can decide to do. PCN can decide to prosecute or punish a pharmacist who gets for drunkenness, even when he was not in his pharmacy. Even if the act was at a party, if such a report gets to council, they can invoke 47.2 to met out disciplinary action. And this has happened in Britain before. I have seen the licensure of pharmacists withdrawn on grounds of drunkenness at the party or people who had physical combat, violence. So we need to be very careful. That's all I'm trying to say. If you look at part 5, offenses and penalties, and I highlighted so many as we went on, sections 52 to 58 makes it clear that offense, once you are guilty of an offense, the penalty, it is no longer the dispensation of penalties of 5 and 10 naira. It can actually range from 250,000 to 2.5, and in some instances, even 5 million. So we all need to guard our loins because it's a new day, clearly in pharmacy. Let me show you a few things because we're talking of clinical pharmacy and patient care. Section 71 under the interpretation course, talks of collaborative drug therapy monitoring. And this is a very key aspect, a very, very key aspect of direct patient care and clinical pharmacy. Look at the definition given to collaborative drug therapy monitoring. It means a team approach to healthcare delivery that seeks to maximize the expertise of the pharmacist and the physician in order to achieve optimal patient care outcomes through appropriate medication use and enhance patient care services. There are so many definitions you need to acclimatize and familiarize with as we systematically systemize in a disposition to the application of these very, very important and strategic new law. Because of our time, I think I would like to stop here now so that colleagues would have an opportunity to ask questions, make clarifications, and make comments on this presentation. Once again, let me thank the leadership of CPAN for graciously inviting me to deliver this paper. Thank you very much, and God bless you all.
Wow. Thank you very much, our erudite presenter. You are fit for purpose. I don't know what others think. Please, can we make some appreciation noise to him?
Thank you.
Can we appreciate the presenter, please?
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Wow.
sir.
Thank you.
Sir. Thank you,
Thank
sir.
Thank you, sir.
So dead.
Sir, that was quite erudite.
Very much.
Thank you, sir.
No.
Thank you so much.
So much value.
God bless you.
Well done. We are
Well done.
Thank you so much, sir.
For the beautiful presentation.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Fantastic
we
presentation.
actually got the best from you. Hope to.
Thank you.
We appreciate you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very
Well
much,
done,
sir.
We are always very proud of you, sir. Thank you
you
for the wonderful presentation.
Thank you. Thanks.
I see some hands already up. Dr. Timmy, can you moderate the question and answer session?
Hello.
Okay. Well, let me go straight to the hands that are up. Please, if you cannot raise your hand or speak directly, you can put your questions or comment in the chat box. So, I have the privilege to call on Dr. Joseph Mado, the chairman of CPANA, to make his comments or ask his questions. Dr. Mado.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Please, I believe you can hear me. Am I audible enough?
Yes, I can hear you from here.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. We can.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator, for giving me the opportunity to speak. Let me first of all thank the Field Marshal, as I usually called him, the Field Marshal of Pharmacy. You will agree with me that someone that has gone for at least, or we say over 1,005 conferences, I think that has earned him the title of Field Marshal of Pharmacy profession, or whatever profession he finds himself. Myself, I don't think I've gone for up to 30 conferences. But here tonight, we have someone who has attended over 1,005 conferences. That is not, it's not as easy as say, come chop rice. So the Field Marshal, the Jagaban of Pharmacy, as is fondly called in Lagos State in particular. So we thank you so much for being on the platform of CPAN this night and giving a very concise lecture, very concise and straight to the point. I know you made it brief so that we can also have time to speak. But meanwhile, before I maybe make a little input, let me also use this opportunity to recognize some of our elders that I've seen on the attendance list or on the platform, the charts. I have seen the name Dr. Lolu Ojo. He's a very senior member of the profession in the country. Dr. Lolu Ojo, we thank you. We are happy to have you in our midst. I can also see Dr. Dan Oruwese. We are very happy to have you. I can also see my boss, Pharmacist Uche Apakama. In those days, while I was still a student, Pharmacist Apakama has been among those who are really carrying the profession forward. I can also see my Secretary General of the West African Postgraduate College of Pharmacists, Professor Oriagba. So we are happy to have you in our midst. I can also see Pharmacist Vicky Uku, immediate past national chairman of Association of Lady Pharmacists of Nigeria. Up apps, you're highly welcome. And then I can see Professor Aina, she's with us. Good evening, ma. You're welcome. And the immediate past Deputy National President South of PSN, Dr. Ejiro Foyibo. I've seen all of them here, and it is very important to give honor to whom honor is due. So I recognize your presence. I want to once more say that I thank Sister Akintayo for this concise presentation. I know that I also went through the laws. I saw the collaborative drug therapy monitoring. Of course, that has never existed before in any of our laws. And if you are not working directly with the patients, you cannot do collaborative drug therapy monitoring. Thank God the new PCN Act has given us that. I was also able to see the term pharmaceutical care. Pharmaceutical care is also in our new law, and some of that clinical terminologies are also in our new law. And I thank the presenter for presenting such this night. But I don't know if Pharmacist Olumide Akintayo will answer my question. So my question goes this way. I have been privileged to go through the license of nurses and physicians in this country, and even some pharmacists outside this country. And what I see on those licenses is that so person, maybe probably having met the prescribed requirements, have been licensed to practice as a medical practitioner or as a nurse or as a pharmacist, even in some countries outside Nigeria. But in Nigeria, we keep on seeing our licenses saying you are licensed to sell, retail, sell, dispense, manufacture, import, and then at times, certain things that maybe we bring up, some colleagues will be asking us, where is it stated on your license? That is the question some pharmacists will say. This one is not stated on the license. I don't know how the presenter will give answer to this night, because if it is said that he is licensed to practice as a pharmacist, and I think whatever any pharmacist does or can do in any other part of the world, then a pharmacist in Nigeria, if it is proven that pharmacists outside this country can do it, then I believe a pharmacist in Nigeria can do it. So don't you think listing some of these things are limiting the scope of our license? Thank you very much, sir.
Let me ask, do you want me to give a response immediately, or we take all the questions and then I react to all the questions at once? Moderators.
I think we should.
Yes, the presenter, please. We wish for you to answer the questions as they come.
Okay, fine. All right. I really don't see that as a problem. Now, if pharmacists feel very strongly that there is a need to restructure the lettering, the lyrics of our annual license, then I think all we need to do, CPAN can champion it. Why not? Write a letter to the Registrar of the Pharmacists Council of Nigeria and raise these issues in a strong memo. What would happen? I've been a two-time member of that council. I was a member of PCM in 2006, from 2006 to 2008, and I was also a member, automatic member as president from 2013 to 2015. One of the best things that has happened to us is that statutorily, the president of the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria is also the chairman of the Law and Ethics Committee. And what you're talking about has to do with law. So if that type of memo actually goes to council, it will be referred to the Law and Ethics Committee of Council, which, like I said, is anchored by the president of the PSN. Let me say with due modesty that so many of these things you see in today's law, we factored and handled them when I was president and chairman Law and Ethics Committee of Council. So because that's the appropriate template to handle it. And I believe these things can be done. I can confirm to you that even council is expecting a wide range of inputs. There are gazettes that still have to be developed with regards to the implementation of so many things. For instance, satellite pharmacy concept and all that. So we should just continue to liaise with the appropriate quarters. And I believe that we have a registrar who is willing to work with pharmacists. I know, as a matter of fact, that is ready to work. So if we begin to have both formal and informal interactions with council, of course, what Dr. Joseph Madu is proposing will certainly see the light of day. I can also assure you that once that type of memo goes through to council, some of us will also take more than an ordinary interest to make sure it sees the light of day. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Please, we have other hands up. May I call on pharmacist Suleiman Ademola?
Thank you, sir.
Please, may I also request that the people taking the mic make their comment brief because other hands are coming up.
Thank you so much. Let me first of all,
and there's a queue of hands. Thank you.
Let me start by thanking Pharmacist Akintayo for the wonderful presentation. I also want to say or make a request that the soft copy of the act can be made available to all pharmacists, especially the registered one, so that we can be well acquainted with it. Now that we have been stimulated, at least we know where to run to read. I want to make an observation as regard to section 27, subsection C, that
subsection 27, what number?
Section 27, subsection 6.
Okay,
yes, that said that in the case of a breach, there will be punishment or fine. One thing that I've also seen is that the fines, they were in ranges, and they were really not specific, that when this offense is committed, this is your fine. It ranges from a particular amount as an individual or a corporate to a certain amount. I think we should get to the level of being specific about a particular breach and then the particular fine associated with it. Otherwise, people will take advantage of it. My major concern, again, is that of the section 47(2). I also know that an offense that is not written down, that is only based on an implied decision, may always have issues for us to implement it. I think by now, the PCN has been in the known of the act. The section 72, section 47(2) should have a list, even though it may not be exhaustive, but then we should know some of those things that is not included in 47(1) that the PCN considered that there could also be. So those were my observations. Thank you, sir.
Well, let us start with the observation on 27(6). You know, when I made that presentation, I talked about all the offenses and the penalties actually dealt with in sections 52 to 58. And like you rightly observed, some of the fines will be on the basis of whether it is for an individual or for a corporate organization. That's why I gave you a wide range. But what you must note is that once you do not have a specific fine attached to a specific offense, then it becomes discretionary, and that can be more dangerous because it's a general thing. That means they can actually decide, for instance, that if you're found guilty for drunkenness, you go and pay 1 million. If you do not want, in fact, you can pay a fine and they still sanction you. So the important thing is pharmacists should strive to be above board by virtue because of this various provisions, which can really, really rope you. But Section 27(6), you know, this one is targeted at criminally grounded or inclined pharmacists. Basically, that is a specific one. You carry a liability. You carry a huge liability when you go and make a declaration that you are a director who has this much shares, when in actual fact you don't have any. Let me tell you why it becomes necessary to have this clause. In the 90s, I was a pharmaceutical inspector, and I've seen one of the first set of inspectors of that era, because I think I saw Uche Apakama at some point. If I remember well, Uche was the very first chairman of the PIC in Anambra when we started this concept of appointing private sector players as inspectors of council under distinguished past registrar, Ms. Anatu Dakait. Now, in Lagos, where I practice, there was this young man. You know, those days, people would just assume that once they go and forge or cook up papers at CAC, claiming they have 51% of the shares of the company, they assume they own it. And so in this particular instance, this young man brought up a paper. This guy, I remember very well, was a graduate of 1995. And that premise has been existing since 1972. And we said, look, you know you are not the owner of this. Why do you want to do this to yourself? We used to have these Wednesday inquiries in Lagos at this time. You know, the next time that guy came to see us, he had gone a step further because we asked him where he got money to buy 51% shares. You know what that guy did? The owners of that premises told him they were going to give him a loan, and they made him sign a bond that he was owing them 2 million naira. And that it was with the 2 million naira, he bought over 70% of the shares of that company. So, of course, when the guy showed up, we now told him that, look, do you know that you are inviting very big trouble? Because you have put in paper with legal seals that you are owing people 2 million naira. 2 million naira, by the way, in the mid-90s, in 96, 97 was fairly good money. Because I think you must be talking of more than 50 million, 50, 100 million equivalent. So today, if you look at the story of Naira today, and you know that it was at that point that guy began to sweat. And he confessed that indeed he did not take anything from them. Meanwhile, they put in black and white that he was owing them 2 million. Now, he got away with it because we didn't have these specific provisos in law to deal with such matter. Now, and that's why I said you carry criminal liability directly today if you attend any such thing. If you go and sign papers in council that you own shares that you do not own, it will only bring trouble and misfortune. And I can assure you that with the little I have seen, I think the Registry of Council is actually prepared to meet and face that type of challenge. So we need to spread the gospel that it might not be business as usual. In fact, it should be business unusual as far as some of these vices are concerned at the Registry of the Pharmacy Council of Nigeria.
Thank you. We now call yes.
Hello, Dr. Raymond. Yeah, I wanted to suggest that we take at least 3 different contributions and then in response to it because we have so much hands up. Otherwise, we have some persons not making contribution.
That is only okay from the chat.
Yes.
Is it from the chat box?
No, from the persons raising up their hands. Let's have 3 persons make
I'm
their
following
contributions on
that
their
order
comments.
already.
Okay.
Yeah, please, we have from Onyebuchi. Please, you have the floor now. Your hand is up. Please unmute yourself and address the house.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. This is pharmacist Onyebuchi from Yobe State, the DPS Hospital Management Board. I'm really excited and happy to hear from our former president. Whenever he's around, we feel at home because he's a father of the profession. So indeed, I'm happy and appreciate your contributions and clarifications, bringing this law, especially for us that are working in government to the rank of DPS. You need to get some of these laws very clear because often and on you come in contact with things that has to do with this. So indeed, it's a privilege for me. So thank you very much. My question now is just a question and clarification on the law concerning the satellite pharmacy. So I wanted to know, because I read it a lot of time, I couldn't, a lot of my boys and people working under me will always ask me, when it comes to satellite pharmacy, okay, it was mentioned that 10 years post-graduation, that somebody that is working in hospital or engaged in public service can open a satellite pharmacy somewhere. So I want to get clarification on that so that I will really know how to go about it and advise. They told me when I read the law, I couldn't really, get out who is qualified to open up a satellite pharmacy. So I just need a clarification on that. And thank you very much.
Thank you, my DPS. Well, I think it's simple and straightforward. Section 27 provides that a pharmacist, any pharmacist who has a minimum of 10 years post-qualification experience is eligible to own a satellite pharmacy in Nigeria, provided such a satellite pharmacy is affiliated to a registered community pharmacy. So in real terms, that is saying that an academic pharmacist, an industrial pharmacist, a hospital admin pharmacist, who are not core community pharmacists, can own satellite pharmacies in Nigeria once they have 10 years post-qualification experience. So the way it works is, if ABC Pharmacy is a registered pharmacy, ABC Pharmacy can have a number of satellite pharmacies affiliated to it. What you will just have on the label is ABC Satellite Pharmacy. In bracket, you might just have affiliated to ABC Pharmacy. So that's that within the ambit of law today. When you're looking at all the tenets of normative civility, that's where it is. Now, because this has generated a lot of interest, Council is going to come up with a specific guideline, more guidelines on how this will operate. And these are reasons why CPAN and a number of other interests and technical groups must show interest. For instance, do you want this concept to be operated in such a way that practitioners, because they will be pharmacists, are they going to operate in city centers? What will be the yardstick in the inspection procedure? Is it going to be 200 meters to existing pharmacy? Will it be in rural areas? These are things you need to, these are mysteries I think we need to unravel together. So everybody who is a would-be beneficiary should begin to engage the appropriate quarters about now, so that the purpose for which this concept was set up can be met at the end of the day. For me, it is probably one of the best opportunities we'll have. At the time, we're beginning to tell the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, for instance, that community pharmacies, because they have been recognized by as primary healthcare centers and health facilities by virtue of the National Health Act 2014, who says pharmacists cannot render immunization services? Who says we cannot do basic things in antenatal care? What is antenatal care? To tell people to take folic acid and full complement of iron preparations, eat well, vegetables. I mean, if any average nurse or midwife can do that, why will a pharmacist not be able to do it? What is it that you have? What is it that they do about family planning control techniques that we cannot do very well? So it is a big opportunity, especially because you're talking about direct patient care tonight. It's a big opportunity for us to tell government that, look, we have now made provisions for a satellite pharmacy concept. And so we have a ready pool of between 10 to 15,000 pharmacists, eligible pharmacists, who can offer services directly to consumers of health in Nigeria. For me, it is a big, big plus and boost for our profession. And I think we should take maximal advantage of the opportunity this portends for our profession in ultimate public interest.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it's clear enough.
Yeah. Please, may we request upcoming commentators and asking questions to please go straight to your question. There are still many more hands down. We are calling on Dr. Nuhu now to make his comment or ask his question. Please unmute yourself and address the House.
Good evening, distinguished colleagues. I want to thank our senior colleague for this wonderful presentation. Recently, we had an issue in my hospital regarding pharmacist access to folder. So I just wanted to ask, do we have a provision in this new law that grants pharmacists access to patient folder and also grant them access to document in the patient's folder? Thank you.
Let me just give you a straightforward answer. You might not find, you won't find an answer to that within the ambits of PCN Act 2022. But if you check National Health Act 2014, it is clear. It is clearly stated that all healthcare providers have access, should have direct and unfettered access to patient records. And therefore that includes pharmacy. So definitely you have it. Go and get that document. And I cannot remember that section, but I know that it is provided for in that document. So get that document. And that's why I said we must engage, we must write. If they tell you cannot do that and you have this type of information, write officially to them and cite it, attach the law. It's a matter of law. And if they do not want to agree, take the matter to court. Get your local NAHAP to go to court. You see, many times when you even shy away from institute litigations, people think because it will take too much time and all that. In some instances, you don't even need to embark in full-scale litigation. Just go to court and seek an interpretation of that particular clause, and it don't have that mystery. It just gives you the clear insight that you need, that you are not fighting anybody, but you want the court to interpret this section 2 of the National Health Act, and you see the answer. It's clear. I was president of the PSF when we came up with that law, and I can tell you that we were the ones who insisted it had to be part of that law. And to the glory of God, it is there.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Very much.
Yes,
Please, next is fellow Chapakama. Fellow Uche, please unmute yourself and address us.
Thank you, CPAN, and thank you, Doyen Olimide Akintayo, my past president. Basically, if you look at the Vice Chancellor of Nigeria Act, I guess part 10, it deals essentially with offenses and penalties. And for me, I'm speaking from the point of view of a retail chain owner or director of a company's retail chain, and where we are depending on pharmacists, registered pharmacists to license, register and run our premises for us, as happens in most chains. The question now becomes, in a case where there's a liability by the action of the pharmacist whom we have engaged, how does this law protect the directors from prosecution and paying penalties? Because you get a pharmacist qualified to run a premises for you, and he goes to cause infringements. Even the satellite pharmacists you're talking about, of pharmacists who own it as an annexure to your own, and commit an offense as stated in this section. How does the law protect the directors or owner of the company when we know they've done the right thing, they've engaged pharmacists, employed them to replace for them? That's question one to my past president. Then to CPAN chairman or anybody wants to have a question. Today, we're talking about clinical pharmacy. It's not just for hospitals alone. An average retail pharmacy now is a clinical setting in terms of what we do. How prepared are pharmacists and CPAN preparing pharmacists to be actually clinically oriented in the place of work? For me, as an entrepreneur running a chain, we have big challenges with pharmacists and body of knowledge. How can CPAN help the retail chains? Because many other pharmacies owned by pharmacists, they go for their WPCP, they go for their PharmD, they acquire additional knowledge, and they are more stable. But for chain owners, it's not you run a business, it's run by pharmacists, many of them young pharmacists. How can CPAN help the retail chains or retail owners to have pharmacists who have requisite clinical knowledge to stand the test of time today? That's my two questions I want to ask. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Uche, for that question. Please, our presenter.
Yeah, let me explain the way these things work. Generally, once there's litigation, if there's a violation or a breach, whether it's a chain, or whether it's a chain pharmacy, or whether it's just one branch, whether it's an import outfit manufacturing, once it is a pharmaceutical company, the two sets of people who are culpable primarily, first, the superintendent pharmacy. The superintendent pharmacist, because there is a person who carries the bulk of the body, because the one who is in personal direct control of day-to-day management of that premises. So it's the very first person who is liable. The other levels of people who will be arraigned are the pharmacy directors. Because the only reason why the law insists you must have those directors on the board is that they expect that you give the board, the owners of the company, quality professional advice day by day to guide against the occurrence of that malfeasance. So, but having said that, if the directors are smart, oftentimes they might stand the opportunity of exculpating themselves from whatever charges or breaches that were committed by that outfit. The person who most often might not be able to go scot-free is the superintendent pharmacist. That is why we need to begin to reorientate our colleagues, because when people accept these responsibilities and jobs as superintendent pharmacists, they do not imagine, they do not understand how far-reaching, how enormous, the immensity, the enormity of the responsibility they have taken. And so, organizations like ACPN, CPAN, and all of them have a little more, much more to do than they ever did in a recent past. Because as these things evolve, there is a likelihood that just as we have always chased the people we perceive as impostors, the law will also catch up a little more with us, especially because this is a democratic dispensation. Perhaps I would attempt to do some expo because you also threw a challenge to CPAN. And I think it is not just CPAN. ACPN and all the other related organizations need to come up with their own code of conduct, especially drawn code of conduct, to draw the attention of their members to today's new realities. Because it is not enough to say, oh, this man is the offending party. A lot of the time, some of these breaches were allowed to see the light of day because our colleagues also did not do what they were supposed to do. If you are familiar with there's this law, not Consumer Protection Council, this concept of strict liability offenses, as spelled out in the Trade Malpractice Act, you will see very, very clearly that most of, and that was why I drew attention to some positions in section 47(1)(b), where it says you'll be guilty of an offense if you dispense and sell medicines to unauthorized persons. What is that? What that section is simply saying is you'll be found guilty if you go and dispense a POM without prescription to a client. And that's why I said most of us who are gathered this evening at one time or the other have been guilty of that offense, whether as players in hospital or in community pharmacies. So we really need to come up with this code of conduct for practitioners in community pharmacies so that we can ward off the evil, the consuming evil that lurks in our collective practices with a foreseeable future.
Thank you very much. It's Dr. Joseph Mado. Would you want to comment on the second aspect of Dr. Feluche's question?
Okay. Yes, good evening. I believe you can still hear me. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Okay. Let me thank Fellow Apakama for his question. His question is, what is CPAN doing and maybe other ones to help the chain pharmacies? Before I move on to answer this question, let me recognize everyone in this meeting is actually highly recognized, but I can see another senior member of our profession by name Professor Femi Oyewo. She's in our midst tonight. I want to welcome her. Thank you very much, ma'am, for being in our presence. And then let me move on to the question. I want to say that thank God we have a lot of our elders tonight, including Fellow Apakama, who is asking this question. CPAN, I usually say in some write-ups, is the first of its kind in West Africa. In Europe, we have European Society of Clinical Pharmacy, and we have UK Clinical Pharmacy Association. In the United States, we have American College of Clinical Pharmacy, which I always clarify that is not a school, but a college, just like our College of Past Presidents, just an association of clinical pharmacists in the US. Even in South Africa, we have South African Society of Clinical Pharmacy. And we are lucky that the good Lord Almighty has given us the opportunity to establish CPAN. So CPAN belongs to all of us. CPAN, even being domiciled in Nigeria, has our members like other similar clinical pharmacy associations around the world. The CPAN also has members from other parts of the world. For instance, I heard Dr. Suleiman Adomola was speaking to us this night. He is calling from Uganda. even though he's a Nigerian, but he's domiciled in Uganda, but he's a member of SIPAN, and many of them. What I'm trying to say in summary is that we are doing a lot, but because we are saddled with the responsibility of still finding our roots as an association, and then doing some other things we can do, like the code of conduct that Pharmacist Akintayo said this night. SIPAN had gone ahead to have something like that, which we said is standard operating procedures, and we are definitely going to improve on that to accommodate new things, and that will help our members. One good thing about SIPAN is that any pharmacist from any technical or interest group can become a member of SIPAN. In fact, you don't even need to be a clinical pharmacist to be a member of SIPAN. The moment you have interest about practice clinical pharmacy, you can be a member of SIPAN. And we have been doing this to help our members, not only those in pharmacies that are not community, that are not or the hospital pharmacies, but for chain pharmacies. We have been encouraging people to read. We have been organizing our lectures, which have been constant uninterruptedly for about 3 years now. I've been doing a lot of things. People are reading, people are learning, and actually I'm sure that if you meet somebody who is an active member of SIPAN, if you employ him in your practice, sir, just like I know you have up to 10 community pharmacy branches, I know you have up to that, at least 9 to 10. If you employ any active member of SIPAN, sir, in your practice, you will see that the difference is highly clear. This is not to draw difference between us and our other colleagues, but this is just to show that because we are doing a lot, and I want to use this opportunity to still remind our elders, particularly those who are present this night, that the first conference of clinical pharmacy, which is being championed by SIPAN in Nigeria, will be in May, and I hope to see all of you in Akwa Ibom State. Thank you very much.
Thank you, our chairman. Please, let's take the last hand raised up here, and then we go into the closing formalities. Dr. Agada Echofu, you have the floor.
Okay, good evening, sir. Good evening, everybody. I want to appreciate the presenter and former president for well-presented topic tonight. My question borders on the satellite pharmacy. It is an idea that we need collaboration of community pharmacists and a public sector pharmacist. Now, if it is well executed, I believe that it will limit the activities of patent medicine vendors and the pharmaceutical shops that are coming up. Now, what do you feel, sir, or what would you advise should be the attitude of both the community pharmacists and the public sector pharmacists with respect to satellite pharmacies while we await the guideline from the council? What advice their attitude for us to be able to achieve that, since they need to collaborate to achieve it? Secondly, my second question borders on the act. The act does not allow private pharmacy in public hospitals. Does it allow public-private partnership? So these are my questions, sir. Thank you.
Let me start with your second question. Let me start with your, and the simple answer is yes, while the law forbids you to bring in private pharmacies to take over public pharmacies, the law does not in any way interfere with PPPs. In fact, PPP is a concept, has been approved, and it is being run actively by the federal government of Nigeria. The appropriate agency for that is the BPP. And they are models. Even the Pharmacists Council of Nigeria, when that matter was becoming a huge challenge and problem, the Pharmacists Council of Nigeria, as it were at that time, had to draw up some guidelines to guide the operations of PPP in Nigeria. Basically, I mean, what PPP wants to achieve is to make sure that drugs are available in these pharmacy facilities at public sector level. So the PPP initiative might be restricted to allowing private providers to bring in drugs to the store of the facility. But that's probably where it should also end, because properly appointed pharmacists through civil service protocols are the only ones who can be made to handle routine pharmaceutical care and services once those drugs are deposited in the facility. And I believe that takes care of your question. Now, my advice about satellite pharmacies, it's simply this. If you're not ready for it, it is not compulsory to take advantage of that window if you do not want it. The whole idea is geared towards, and I was also president when we started it, and I think that agitation started basically because of academic pharmacists, because ours is probably the only profession, or one of the professions that I know, where a man is made to teach what he does not really practice. He has no hands-on experience. He's not teaching what he's never practiced. And there's a difference. The reason why we were able to interact probably better with regards to pharmacy laws this evening is because as practitioners, all of us at one time or the other have applied some of these laws in our respective practices. So the very first advice is, if you do not, there's nothing compelling about running a satellite pharmacy. If you must also run it, therefore, your priority will be to focus on the professional dimension of it. People have asked me questions. For instance, people ask me, oh, how many satellite pharmacies can people have? And I said, how many do you think you should have? The moment you want to have more than one, then what you have in mind is no longer hands-on experience or professional in the professional horizon. What you want to get into is business. And so what you should be looking at is setting up a pharmacy and get superintendent pharmacists to do that. My own strong, but perhaps the most important part of it is, and this is just a personal opinion, I think we must also push that owners or operators of satellite pharmacies must be allowed to exist with regular pharmacy facilities. That's community pharmacies, since they are owned by pharmacist colleagues. Once you meet the routine proximity rule of 200 meters to existing premises, I think you should be allowed to do it. The patent medicine bit, because I've also seen that question coming up on the screen, should be retained for those who practice in rural areas for now and not city center, and let every other condition be applicable. Fundamentally, we're getting to a dispensation whereby for patent medicine vending, the golden rule or condition precedent will no longer be you being able to write and being 18. We are advocating seriously that, look, give that responsibility to pharmacy technicians. And these pharmacy technicians have some idea. They have been trained, they have been tutored to some extent about medicine or drug use. It's, of course, it's nothing near to what a pharmacist was exposed to, but at least he knows, because it is really an insult. I consider it an insult to our intelligence that we designate people as patent medicine dealers on the basis of being able to read and write. It makes a mess of the whole thing. So And if you look at it, for those who are very well exposed, you see that the global workforce in pharmacy is grounded on pharmacists and technicians, pharmacy technicians. If you walk into a community pharmacy abroad, in the US, in the UK, once you get in there, you see that the standard is that in fact, the only people you can employ are pharmacy technicians, apart from the pharmacy. So, if it is about an international best practice, then let's do the appropriate thing.
We want to thank you so much, sir, for this wonderful presentation, and also how you really commented on some of our questions. And I've seen that you've also taken some questions from the chat box. Thank you so much. We cannot close this section without tonight when we do our closing formalities within now and the next 5 minutes. So first on our list is Professor Mrs. Mbagfemi Oyewo. Ma, we'd like to hear from you. We want to hear your contributions, your comments, and also your motherly advice. Ma, please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry I came in a bit late. I was at another program, but I am not surprised at all the comments, and especially my past president, Olumide. He's always very sound and very, very sound, and knows his onions and the sections and everything. Thank you very much, past president, for always being there for the profession. Olumide Akintayo, God bless you always. And my national chairman, Sipan, I am very proud of what you and Sipan, the ESCO, the team, your team, what you're doing, and also looking forward to the IBOM in May, the first conference we're going to have. Really, yes, for the satellite pharmacy, it is an opportunity for everyone in the public sector who has been maybe conversing, they want to do one thing or the other. Is an opportunity. And just like past President Olumide said, that once they are within the 200 meters, they should be allowed to have or maybe what the community pharmacy has, even though they are affiliated to one. And I also want to thank Olumide that they were looking at changing that rule of for patent medicine dealers that, oh, you have to just read, write, and 18 years. We have the pharmacy technicians. If we are bringing them, they are a very important workforce of the pharmacy space globally. And even in, do we say in FIP, they have their own section and all those things. It's nice to bring them on board. They'll be in a better position to operate the patent medicines, stores or whatever, wherever. They will be the best, position. And if we have to go global practice, we would also be having them in the community pharmacies as well. Thank you very much. It's a delight. I'm happy about the profession. We are moving. We are actually moving, and I know we'll get there. All the setbacks in the hospitals, it's not all the hospitals that have this problem. Where I am currently, we have access to patients. The pharmacists have EMR. They're there. They have access to patient files. I don't even see my prescription. Everything is EMR. And at times I'll just wonder when I see the doctor, I'll call the pharmacist. What was it, that was there? It's what is a different environment entirely. It is, that's the AMSH That's Abuad Multi-System Hospital, is different entirely. But I pray that very soon all pharmacies, all hospitals, teaching hospitals, they are teaching hospitals, and therefore they are meant for the teaching of all health professionals, every one of us, not just a particular group. The law, we are guided by the law, and if we have any problem, we can always contact past President Olumide. I told you he has all the sections up ahead. How he does it, I don't know, but he will give it to you. God bless you. God bless everyone for coming. Let's keep moving. We're going to soar very high very soon. I know that and I believe that. Thank you very much. God bless you, SIPA, and God bless you, past President Olumide. And Dr. Madu, God bless you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ma. We really appreciate you, and God bless you. So next on our list, we briefly from Dr. Daniel Onuese. Please, I would like to hear from you, your comments, your contribution. Please, can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, good evening, everybody. I am happy to be part of today's presentation. I listened from the very beginning, and I was even more interested when I learned that my brother and past president Olumide was going to be presenting today on this very important topic. He has elucidated everything that needs to be done, and I think it is for us who have learned from here to begin how to strategize on proper implementations. The laws are there, and it is for us to insist that they are implemented and that the laws are obeyed. I'm particularly impressed with the new provisions, such as the satellite pharmacy, registration of hospital and hospital pharmacy, whether private or public. I am only praying that the PCN will follow up on this path of ensuring that all public and private hospitals, pharmacies are registered and are brought in within the pharmacy space for appropriate regulations and all of that. I'm also happy that for the first time, the issue of collaborative practice is in our laws. So anybody who wants to stop any pharmacist from seeing a patient's document, it's for the person to bring up this part of the law and show those who want to prevent them from doing so. Say, look, this is what the law says. In order for me to give optimum service to this patient, I need to have certain information. So it is about collaborative practice, cooperation, and who knows? When people talk about patients, I laugh some of the time when people talk about patients. They look at patients as only those who have infirmities. But the WHO has also told us that it's not just the absence of infirmities that makes somebody to be healthy. So we need to look at all of this properly. So in the strength of that, I want to thank everyone. Thank my brother Olumide. Thank the chairman and the SIPAN. And I hope that when we meet in May in Uyo, we'll be able to have good time, extreme more, plenty of these things, and seeing how we will further push up our clinical practice so that we'll not be armchair clinical pharmacists, and will mean a lot to the patient, and the patients will depend more on us. Because this is not about getting it just because it is. It is about any need, what we give. So I want to stop there. I want to thank everyone, and thank you for this evening. Thank you very much, and God bless all of us. Good night.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. We are always very, very delighted to hear from you, sir. We really appreciate you. We also like to hear from you, Dr. Ejiro Foyibo. Please, you are on the list of participants. Please, Ma, can you unmute? We'd like to hear from you, your contributions, your comments, and your advice. Thank you, Ma. Thank you very much. I want to thank the leadership of SIPAN for the topic chosen and the speaker for tonight. There is no doubt that as many people that were in today's session have gained so much. I was particularly happy when I saw the notice and the choice of the speaker. And I just told myself, who else could have been a better speaker for tonight, if not our past president? So I want to thank the leadership of SIPAN for thinking in that direction. And I also want to thank our past president. As usual, he has done great justice to this topic. And even at our state level, we've had this issue has come up. There are so many pharmacists that actually want to know more about this new law. Even the old one, not everybody know about it, but this new one with what is being said about it, people want to know about it. They want to know what is in it for them. What is the, the benefits? Why is it better than the other one? And for anyone who has listened today, you know that actually we are moving forward as a profession. And the leadership of the profession has put in so much from what the past president have told us, because these things did not just get there, is what they've been planning and working towards over the years. So I want to really say a big thank you to all those who have put in their best. Then, like what fellow Akpakama, the area fellow Akpakama mentioned, sometimes I also think in that direction. I've wanted to even mention it to the SIPAN chairman that sometimes some of the topics should be taken in such a way that they will look, like community practice oriented. You might take a topic that will be beneficial to the community also, but there is a way you can take it that it will look more of community oriented practice. So maybe once in a while, you just take some topics, the weekly topics, that we actually look at areas of community practice. Maybe you look at the other technical arms too, because I'm sure maybe those in the industry will want to get something, those in the academia will want to get. Let's look at it in that way. But I must say that SIPAN is actually doing very, very well. For me, I am happy about it because it's something that that has brought so much benefit to as many of the people that are following. And sometimes when you look at it, you look at the level of discussion and what is put in, you know that we are moving forward. So I want to say a very big thank you. I'm looking forward to the conference coming up in Uyo. And I know that is something that is a first time, but I'm expectant of so much at that conference, and I just pray that you will be able to organize, especially at these times, but you'll be able to put up something that everybody will be proud of. So once again, I want to say congratulations. SIPAN is doing very well. We are proud of the leadership. We are proud of even the followership of SIPAN. And we just hope that we continue to move forward as a profession and even in the various groups. And I want to also thank those who are putting so much into this new law, because if you look at it, it's bringing us more together. Because as a past national chairman of the ACPN, I know that there are so many times that we look at ourselves from our own practice sector rather than looking at ourselves as one family. But if you look at this law now, it is actually bringing us more together. And the more we are together, the better for everybody and the better for the profession. So once again, I want to say congratulations and well done. And we pray that we continue to move forward as a profession. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ma. We really appreciate you, and we have taken note of what you said concerning our weekly meeting. I thank God that the SIPAN National Education Committee Secretary is here. She's going to take the vote of thanks, and I know she's going to pray for us before she, round up. Thank you so much. Then I would like to invite Dr. Margaret Obono, representing the college. Ma, please, you have the floor. We want to hear from you, your contributions, your comments, and your motherly advice. Please, Ma, you can unmute yourself and talk. Hello, I don't know if Dr. Margaret Obono is still on the line. She's on the line, but she's not unmuted. All right, if she's not forthcoming, let's hear a word or two from our past national apps chairman, pharmacist Victoria Uko. Ma, you are still on the line, please. We'd like to hear from you, your contributions and your comments. Thank you.
Good evening. The SIPAN National Chairman and our guest speaker tonight. I want to appreciate, what SIPAN is doing. We really appreciate you, and especially for tonight. I'm not a member yet. I know Dr. Madu has been disturbing me, to come and join SIPAN. And after tonight's lecture, Dr. Madu, I think I will register this year and become a member. Let me especially appreciate our guest speaker. I normally call him custodian of pharmacy laws. Even when he's sleeping, you can just wake him up and he will be doling out the laws and explaining it. Just like what Dr. Foyibo said, at the state levels, like in Rivers State, we have been trying to look into these laws. I even told the chairman that, chairman, you have to fix a date so that we'll sit down. That is the only thing we will do. But thank you, SIPAN, for organizing this tonight. Past President Olumide Akitayo has really, gone into details, of this, of the laws, of the pharmacy laws. And I want to appreciate you, our guest speaker, for what you have done, for what you are doing, and what you are going to continue to do for the pharmacy profession. I want to appreciate you. In the case of the satellite pharmacy, I hope that pharmacists will key into it because it will be very beneficial. Thank you very much. And I say God bless SIPAN and God bless pharmacy and pharmacists. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Raymond, please, can you carry on the moderation, please?
Okay. Wow. I believe all of us wish it doesn't end so soon. But it must end so that we can at least get to sleep tonight. It has been a wonderful evening. We thank everybody who participated and for the kind words spoken from our elders. We all are working together to get this profession to the apex of its glory in Nigeria. So help us God. Okay, I think I will now come to the formal closing. I would want to call on Famlari Olu. If you're still in the house, please lead us in a closing prayer so that we'll formally close this session.
Hello. Harry, sorry, Dr. Do the vote of sorry. Dr. Regina James, please, if you're in the house.
Hello?
The National
Okay.
National Secretary, Education Sector.
Yeah, please.
Vote of thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, please, let's go on with that.
Dr. Regina James, please. Please unmute yourself and give us the vote of thanks. If she's not there, then Dr. Maureen Nua for our CPAN National Vice Chairman, please, Ma, can you give us the vote of thanks? Please, we've not heard your voice today.
Good evening, everyone. I'm delighted to listen to tonight's presentation by our erudite scholar. Can you hear me, please? Hello?
I can hear you from here.
Okay.
Yes,
okay.
ma'am, can hear you.
I said I'm delighted to listen to tonight's presentation by our able erudite scholar, our dear Fam Akintayo, well presented. In short, I'm not surprised. So on behalf of CPAN National Chairman, Dr. Joseph Madu, and all CPAN ESCO members and the General House, all the members of CPAN, want to appreciate you, sir, for making it possible for us to listen to your well-articulated presentation. I want also to thank all our seniors who made it possible to stay with us up to this moment. We are glad to see all of you on our platform tonight. And all the members of CPAN and those who are not yet a member, we thank our dear mommy, Dr. Victoria, former National Chairman APS. Ma will be glad to see your name on our registered members list as soon as possible. I know you will do what you said. Thank you very much. So I don't have much to say than to appreciate our presenter and to pray that with this new current Pharmacist Act, that our pharmacy, our profession will move up to a greater height. Thank you very much, and God bless you all.
God bless you too, Ma. Thank you so much. At this point, we want to have our closing prayer. I want to call on Dr. Lulu Ojo. Sir, we want you to give us the closing prayer. Give us your brief remark and the closing prayer. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, moderator. It has been a wonderful night. Time very well spent. Let us pray. Father, we thank you. We thank you for our lives. We thank you for our profession. And we thank you for the development that we have witnessed over the year. We thank you particularly for the new pharmacy law that we are very hopeful will change the narrative for our profession. We ask you, dear Father, to grant us the wisdom, the strength, the courage to pursue the professions of this new law to the benefit of the practitioners, Nigerians as a whole, and we shall have the fullest cause to glorify your holy name. Thank you, dear Father, for the good things you have done for us. In Jesus' almighty name, we have prayed. Amen.
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 Good night, everybody. Good night.
Good night.
Good rest.
Good night, all. It has been so wonderful. Thank you for the moderators. And thank you to our presenter.
Thank you.
See all of you in Akwa Ibom.